Hey everyone, welcome in. We're really glad you guys could take some time out of your day to join us. My name is Madison. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the nutrition coach here at Renewal Nutrition and Wellness. And we're just excited to walk through what the heck semaglutides and GLP-1s are. Most of you probably know them as Ozempic. So we're going to be talking with Traylor Roberts today and taking a deeper dive into what this is and answering some of your questions, and also equipping you guys with the knowledge that you need to answer your other friends' or colleagues' questions. So, Traylor, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Traylor, an Aquarian. My official title is our Chief Experience Officer, so I handle most of kind of the customer service relation business. But something I got really passionate about and I ended up taking over for our company was our compounding pharmacy partners. And if you're getting any peptides, any GLP-1s, anything but true name brand Ozempic, it's coming from either a compounded pharmacy or outside the US, the safest way is compounding pharmacy. So basically, I handle all the business sourcing, like legalities, COAs behind getting these medicine to our clinic and our patients. So while I'm not a physician, I've gotten the opportunity to see these in a ton of use cases and work with a lot of physicians and pharmacists about who these are for, when it's safe, when it's not, that type of stuff. And I'm super happy to be here with Madison.
Yeah, we're excited you could join us. So we're going to take a dive into what we have prepared, really walking through what the heck is a semaglutide and a GLP-1, what do they do, benefits, side effects, and kind of where we're seeing those negative side effects, what's impacting that, and how can we be proactive. And we're going to be talking with Traylor a little bit about how they approach it at their clinic and how others could possibly implement that there. So GLP-1s, it's a confusing term, but basically it is a overall class of medications that is used to be treating type 2 diabetes and obesity. Usually they go hand in hand, where usually it's people overweight and then leading into the type 2 diabetes, where then this medication comes in to kind of help contradict that. So GLP-1 is a hormone that is produced by your pancreas, and that basically, by taking in this GLP-1, it mimics what that pancreas is secreting so that your body can produce more insulin or less, and slows down the absorption of that glucose, which is the sugar in your blood. And it slows down how fast that is absorbed into the body and into the intestines, and therefore then goes to suppress your appetite. So you eat the food, normally GLP-1 is secreted and it goes, okay, I don't need to eat now. But whereas this is coming in and being taken as a pill or as an injection, and it's manually decreasing your appetite without eating any food. So we see over in our picture that GLP-1s, it produces insulin in the pancreas, stops increasing the blood sugar, where the stomach empties a little bit slower, and your brain begins to think, okay, I'm full now. So walking on over to our next slide. This is a breakdown of what we're going to see with GLP-1s. There's a lot of different kinds of medications with this, where you're seeing a lot of people talk about Ozempic or Mounjaro predominantly, but this is kind of just an overall image that all of these different terminologies and medications that you're seeing are all encompassing underneath a GLP-1. So going on to our next slide. We're looking at some of the benefits. The biggest benefit that people are seeing for this is quick weight loss, where you're taking in this medication, you're not having as much of an appetite, and you see that weight begin to come off because you're not eating as much and your body's kind of adapting to that. And with that weight loss, we're seeing a little bit more blood sugar control, where we're having the GLP-1s being secreted and we're not really needing as much sugar in our body, so our body's not taking in as much. And then as well, with that weight loss, we're seeing an improvement in heart health. This is all just beginning stages benefits that we've seen. There may be more to come that we don't know yet. So we're kind of looking into that. So this is not diagnostic, but this is just what research has shown us and what evidence we've seen. Traylor, do you want to add anything to this of what you've seen?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a really broad question, because if you do keep up with the research on this, it is coming out. It feels like every month they're finding a new application with really marginal side effects. the most interesting being in cessation in general. So like smoking, gambling, in addictive type issues, they're starting to see different dosages of semaglutide specifically, helping cessation, whatever it's doing to, I believe, the hypothalamus.
Mhm.
But what's I mean, yeah, that's why it's like it's tough to not start rambling about these medications because they're getting really broad really fast. And a
Mhm.
lot of like what you and I talked about with the devil's in the dosage and what you're doing alongside it and why you're taking it. So I think I'll
Mhm.
just kind of let you keep rolling it because once we start to get to like real use case scenarios, that's where it really starts to help to have like hands-on info.
Definitely. And we can dive further into that, especially this next slide. We're going to be talking about some of the side effects and where we're like kind of what is causing those side effects. So, you and I discussed we see a lot of nausea, kind of GI discomfort, as in like stomach pains, crampings, constipation, or diarrhea. It really depends on the person. We're evidently seeing a loss of appetite because your brain's kind of thinking, okay, we don't really need as much food now that you're constantly full. And then with others, we're seeing a headache. And then in some cases, kind of like the horror stories that we've heard, we see serious side effects, which I'll have you elaborate more on trailer with like the hair loss, the muscle loss, the further GI issues.
So sure, an area that we both agree on, even though I'm on the more medical, less diet end technically in terms of my company, on a personal level, we have much more stringent requirements for giving someone semaglutide, especially at full dose,
Mhm.
because can you pull up the side effects again? So, oh, you can't see my mouse, but if you circle the first four, when Madison and me were talking, I don't consider those first four drawbacks necessarily because that's what people should understand that they're getting into when they take this drug. Unless you struggle with severe obesity and issues with thyroid regulation, severe issues with diabetes, most people experience at a minimum nausea, GI discomfort, and loss of appetite. That's just something that I say like that's part of taking the drug for weight loss, not diabetes management, is you're going to experience these things. Which is why we script Zofran or ondestatron alongside
Mhm.
of it. And we kind of tell people to get their diet back on track. When you see serious side effects taking place, are when people are not being monitored on this drug or the wrong person is taking it and they didn't have the weight to lose, they didn't follow a diet plan alongside it.
Mhm.
Sadly, there's not a lot of regulation around getting these drugs. For instance, I don't legally have to draw your blood to prescribe it to you. I should. We do. Like my internal protocol is doing that. And we have BMI cutoffs, but none of these things legally we have to do. And that
Yes.
fifth category of serious side effects, most of when I've seen them, it's never been at my practice because we're doing it oversight. It's on the internet of people self
Mhm.
injecting, mixing it themselves, getting offline because those serious side effects kick in when you're not letting the drug work, which I'll let you talk about, diet, exercise, all of that
Mhm.
type of stuff. Um, but yeah, the drawbacks are really get very serious very fast if
Mhm.
frankly you're slim and you're trying to take it, or if you have undiagnosed issues with your blood work and you just bought this offline and started doing it and had no idea that you have insulin resistance issues or you already have a GI problem or issues with hematocrit levels. It's just one of those things that you want. Don't let pop culture make it seem like it's just a skinny shot.
Mhm.
I've seen like, we'll talk about the how it can suck all the
Ozempic
fat out of
face.
your head if you didn't have the fat to lose, but
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Especially we'll get into the nutrition side of things here in a minute. Um, what I wanted to ask you is to talk a little bit more. So you mentioned with going through your practice, a lot of it is just regulation. How do you guys go about prescribing it to someone? What is the process of deciding someone is either fit or unfit for going onto a GLP-1?
so, if you think about it in stages, I have like an initial ethics line of like we don't even start the consult unless you have a BMI extremely close to or at and above 27. BMI is kind of outdated, so we take that on a sliding scale, but
Do
a
you guys look at
base.
body fat percentage versus muscle with that, or is it just BMI?
Yes, because I
Okay.
technically have a massive BMI, and then
Mhm.
it's not at all where my body fat percentage
Yeah.
is, because I wouldn't be compliant for this med. So
Mhm.
basically, once you kind of get past the BMI, and then we do require an A1C check,
Okay.
just because A, if you're not compliant with the BMI, but you're diabetic, well, the drug might be a good fit for you anyway.
Mhm.
But if you're non-compliant on BMI, you don't look like you have a higher body fat percentage, plus you have an in-check A1C, we'll still take the consult. But a lot of what my physicians are going to do is push you into more natural or, vitamin, exercise, dietary, hormone
Mhm.
management options that don't include just shutting your brain off to eat and making food sound disgusting. It's just not the healthiest way to go about losing 10 or 15 pounds.
Yeah. Understandable. And I think a lot of, like you were saying, a lot of it comes down to what is the physician requiring? What is the clinic requiring? Is there even a clinic involved? Like a lot of people you said are getting it offline or through other means.
I've taken on some clients who were getting stuff offline, and they
Mhm.
always freak out at my price. And they say, I mean, I'll literally give you an exact example of this past week. Um, I was looking at getting on someone at about like 300 a month is my semaglutide base price, I believe. Um, they were like, well, I was getting it for 120 a month. They're ordering it from China. They're getting the salt. They're mixing it themselves. And the oversight process there may be fine. China makes some great pharmaceuticals, but it's not at all anything we can regulate, anything we'll ever know. I have no idea what's in there. So if they got those things where you hear about people in the hospital from insert insane thing because I took
Yeah.
Ozempic, it's down to, I mean, there are companies that fake the branding on
Mhm.
Ozempic and the QR code. So people will think they're shooting themselves with legit stuff they just found cheap when it's not the real thing and it's doing something different to the body. But
Mhm.
the compound process that you're going to see compound pharmaceuticals take in the US is at minimum a 2-step, but most good providers go through a 3-step. So it's basically going to be the original compound is then manufactured, sent to third party, then third party relegates it with US agencies, then it goes back to pharmacy, and everything is down to lot numbers. So, for instance, I had a person get really sick in tandem with taking the medicine at our practice,
Mhm.
and we were able to chase it down to the lot number, look at the entire batch, and then work with the pharmacy to see if there were any reports on that batch, test something from the lot, no problems at all. We were able to basically say, oh, okay, it's not the medication. Got them a different vial to make sure they were still having the issue. We figured out it was something going on with their diet. Actually, they were allergic to something they were eating. But
Mm.
all of those types of things, and this isn't a pitch for me. If you can find it cheaper elsewhere, by all means, go for it. Make sure that there's a paper trail anytime you're doing any injectable into your body. Like, you want to make sure what you're putting into you is on the label.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely. I think that that's something that needs to be required by a lot more people, just oversight, pretty much. Because, like you said, this is altering what your brain is thinking. So it's a pretty intense thing. So going about it and having those regulations, or at least in our case, what we're giving today, having the knowledge of how to approach it can help make those right decisions.
Well, and understanding, I think if you're not going to have a ton of oversight, it's understanding like, oh, I'm dealing with some nausea. That's probably not a reason to call 911.
Yeah,
But all of a sudden, like, I'm bending over doubled in cramping pain. And,
definitely.
how much have I been injecting? Did I mix that right?
Mhm.
That's when you kind of, okay, you might need help.
Yeah, seeking advice definitely, and especially not necessarily Googling, but actually going and seeking a professional's opinion.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we can pop on over to the dietary recommendations, and we can talk a little more about that and kind of where people should go with that. So there's a lot on here, but this is all essential. I think you can agree, trailer, for when people are going on to this GLP-1, because a lot of it comes down to what are you doing on top of it to help kind of prevent these. So the biggest thing we talked about is strength training and just resistance training in general to keep challenging those muscles. And then going into this, also carbohydrate intake, especially with a diabetic medication, if you have an elevated A1C2, a lot of it is carb control and understanding what the heck is a carb, a refined carb, or a complete carb, where we're think like refined carb as in like your white rice, and complex as more so like your brown rice, more minerals, more vitamins, slower digestion. That also goes into the blood sugar that we're seeing. And then also increasing your fiber intake alongside nutrient dense and whole foods. A lot of that comes down to your vegetables. The biggest thing is eating your vegetables and getting in those vitamins and minerals, because you won't have with this, like, you don't have as much of an appetite. Your body still needs nutrients and vitamins and minerals to continue to function properly. So when you are able to eat, and you sometimes have to force yourself to eat, making sure you're getting in the fiber and the minerals and vitamins through fruits and vegetables, and limiting processed foods, because you don't have as much of an appetite. So filling up on a bunch of chips or like just breads is going to fill you up, but it's not going to give your body what it needs. And kind of going hand in hand with strength training, also protein. The current guideline is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. And of course, you should speak to a doctor, provider, of whoever before you go and make these harder changes, just to see if it's right for you. This is what is currently recommended, so it's a safe thing to practice. But going below it or above it, you should seek some guidance. And then looking over at our vitamins and minerals, calcium and vitamin D, you're going to see weight loss and you're going to see your bones kind of take a hit. So taking calcium and vitamin D helps that absorb into your body better. Think of like calcium and vitamin D when they're in your body, always holding hands. They always need to be together to go into the body. And the same with B12 and C. Those are also really helpful for preventing these vitamin deficiencies. And Trailer, if you want to comment on any of this, feel free to pop in.
Well, I mean, my only comment would be that I pretty much agree in entirety. And to kind of piggyback off of um, my personal experience, both with weight loss, fitness, and my experience seeing people on these drugs, from like microdose skinny people who shouldn't be taking them
Mhm.
to obese ultra success stories. I've got friends through the practice who have lost 120 pounds and they're living their best life now. And if anything, like, I tell everyone that diet and exercise are infinitely more important in your weight loss journey than anything else. All of this other stuff is polish, unless you are truly obese or truly diabetic.
Yes.
Though if you are if you suffer from true obesity, or like have like real diagnosed, documented diabetes, the side effects from these medications are negligible compared to what you're currently dealing with. But the instant we start looking at these as an
Absolutely.
off-label weight, sorry, you're lagging a little bit. The instant we look at these as an off-label use for weight loss, it should be within a diet and exercise program, especially on dieting, because you're gonna lose lean mass.
Mhm.
Everyone I've seen do this loses lean mass. So where do you see it not be a problem? In a truly
Mhm.
obese patient with almost no muscle mass to begin with, who is doing this in tandem with trying to do positive exercise and life change, they're going to be creating muscle while they're burning fat. This isn't going to happen to them. But when you look at a lot of middle-aged women, especially, who typically don't eat protein-rich diets, they may not
Mhm.
be crazy active. You can really mess around and kind of start wasting away. So
Yeah.
staying on top of your diet and the entire chart you were on, and also going into this medication thinking of it as a cycle, not a lifestyle. Like, unless you're obese or diabetic, you should be thinking like, okay, I want to lose 40 pounds. Maybe I'm going to run this
Mhm.
3 months, get my leg up on it, and use this to help rewire my brain with renewal. So then my diet and exercise program can help me stay in the shape that I want to be
Mhm.
in. That's really, anytime we do a consult, I don't want you to be with me for life on semaglutide.
Yeah.
Um, I would love for you to be with me for life because you care about your health and you want to do blood work and that type of stuff. But we don't know the long-term effects of these drugs on non-diabetic patient populaces.
Yes.
Um, then I think back to drugs like prednisone that used to be marketed as miracle drugs.
Mhm.
And now you see people having deteriorating discs and all sorts of stuff because they were on a miracle steroid. We have no idea in 20 years what, and I mean, it's looking very good. It's looking like drug does not cause harm unless you're overtaking it, taking the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
But also if you're budget conscious, this is something that Madison and I talked about a lot too. Like these drugs are price prohibitive,
Mhm.
and it is frankly way cheaper to have a Planet Fitness membership and shop
Mhm.
Aldi and transform your body in 6 months. It's a hell of a lot harder, but I also just think you're going to be happier with your physique, and you're not going to have bounce back weight. There's no such thing as
Yeah,
permanent weight loss unless you keep going to the gym, keep eating right.
definitely.
And I have a lot of people come back to me to restart the drug because they were doing great while they were on it, but they didn't build those habits. They didn't work with the team. And it's really hard to
Mhm.
get people to do the hard work. That's what I was talking with Madison about. But where you see the life change in my obese patients who are now within a compliant BMI, they still eat sweets every now and again, but they change their
Mhm.
framework around food and activity in their lifestyle.
Yeah. Definitely. That's the biggest change we see with a lot of people is just changing their perspective on what needs to change. Because we talked about it a little bit. There's so many crash diets where it's like, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't eat that. But it's just like those little changes that you can keep for your life that you become the cool grandma that's fit and playing pickleball versus somebody who's in hospice, unfortunately. And like you were saying, the longevity and trying to like implement these strategies while they're on it as like a kickstart, and then keeping those healthy strategies like your protein, your strength exercising, your vitamins and minerals to keep that effect going later on. And like you
You're
said,
also
it's
going to
life.
feel way better if you
Hmm.
like work with, because like I recommend everyone who's starting weight loss to get with either y'all or someone like y'all, because I know my dad's a perfect example of someone who took semaglutide and didn't change his diet at all.
Hmm.
Very active, but he's like, I ate a slice of pizza and I was sick everywhere. I've seen a lot of complaints, and it's like, well, you're not supposed to
Yeah.
eat garbage food while you're on this drug. It's gonna quite literally eject. So there's a lot of education that I'm not sure other practices are doing. And also, like,
Hmm.
people are selling this as a miracle drug. And like, no, it's like, it's a decision you have to make. You shouldn't drink alcohol while you're on it. You're probably not going to want any greasy foods. It's going to kind of force you to do like an 80-20 whole food diet
Yeah,
that, Madison and the team can set up, and you're going to feel so much better on that diet. You can go off the med and still feel way better staying on that diet.
absolutely. That helps a ton, especially because if you think about it, if you're making the decision to go on a GLP-1, it is an upfront cost. So if you kind of switch your mindset to thinking about, okay, this is an investment into my future, you want to continue that investment with different things that, quite frankly, are really affordable and really good for your health. Like when you're working out, you're not really going to see a lot of nausea unless you work out and don't eat before, versus if you're just not eating, you're going to be nauseous.
Yeah.
But yeah, like especially looking at it like costs and balances and everything. Like you want to continue your investment. So implementing these in small ways to where it's easier once you're off of it and not having as much of that help, it will help, especially with the mental aspect of it too. I don't know how much you guys have seen of that coming off of it too.
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of people, because I mean, frankly, honestly, a lot of people stay on it and then they go down to a low dose or a maintenance
Hmm.
dose, which there's a lot of good trials coming out on. But kind of goes in tandem with the question in the comments, which is like, so in terms of air quote keys to success for people taking the medication and then cycling off, it's like recording and dialing in everything you're doing while you're on the medication. So
Yeah.
I'm sure y'all do it over there with tracking diet and exercise journaling and all that type of stuff.
Yep.
So like if you think about it, it's almost kind of like if your Ozempic is kind of like going to the diet therapist for 3 months. They work on your mind, they hold your hand. And then if you were like taking journaling, doing all the work, well, when you go off of it, you can still keep putting in that work. and either wean off the drug, go off of it. So I would say like keys to success are building habits while you have the drug assisting you
Mhm.
and then sticking to them and getting help. Like if you're not motivated without a personal trainer, invest the money you were spending on SEMA into a personal trainer. Like do continue the self-care beyond the injection.
Mhm. Absolutely. No, especially keeping the self-care. That's the biggest thing we're seeing right now is just self-care and taking care of your body because it's really the only thing. It's the only one you get. It's all you got, and you got to take care of that tool that's going to get you through life. So yeah. We wanted to open it up for questions from everyone. I see one. What would you say the 3 to 5 keys to success for those who have taken the medication and then cycled off of it are?
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of saying. I think
Yeah,
building habits while you're on the medication and
absolutely.
then keeping those habits going off the medication even when they're hard. I mean, that is really the key to success because if you're off labeling this, it's you don't need it for your A1C anyway. So
Yeah.
it's quite literally a habit setter.
Hmm. Yeah. And if we're listing like 3 big takeaways, do it under observance. If you're going to be taking the medication, see a practitioner or a clinic that specializes it. To exercise, you got to put some kind of fitness in to put positive stress on your body to keep those muscles stressed in a good way to where you're building them, and also eating the protein that you need. Protein is what's going to build those muscles, and it's going to help also with when you're hungry, keeping you full. And 4, vegetables. So yeah, provider, exercise, protein, vegetables. Those are your 3 biggest things. And adding that in while you're on the medication to get that kickstart will only help when you like taper down or if some people come off of it. Yeah. So, what are the largest potential negative impacts to health that we've seen? I think.
Yeah, we talked about it a big bit at the beginning, but a lot of it centers around the differences in like quality of medication. So like
Mhm.
if you're not getting base compound formula and you're getting like a salt variant of it that then basically anything you're buying offline and then mixing yourself with like a baristatic or saline solution, that's going to be a salt replicant of it. That's not going to be compounded. And all of the trials that were done on this medication, right? Everything that to make sure it's safe and everything, it was done off base compounds, not the salt.
Mhm.
So if you're finding cheap product, it is just that. It's cheap product. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
it won't work for you. Works for plenty of people. But everything I've been able to figure out that's a horror story off of it was someone getting something that wasn't real or a copy product.
Mhm.
I have seen very few cases of name brand or compound causing those issues. Not to say they don't cause issues, they do. But like we were talking, normally the lower tier things like nausea, constipation,
Mhm.
headaches, those escalate to a point where under oversight, the practitioner would be like, okay, if it's getting this bad, this is probably not a fit for you.
Yeah.
When you don't have oversight and you're not checking in with me,
We can hear you now.
I think my AirPod died. So when you're getting good oversight, um, right? There's a few people we've taken off because the nausea just got so extreme, or
Yeah.
like they had had a bowel movement in 7 days despite tons of fiber intake. So most of the time when you're seeing a doctor or a physician, you're going to catch those things before it becomes you're in the hospital with GI tract paralysis.
Yes. Yeah. So the quality has a huge impact. But yeah. So thank you guys all to everyone who's able to join. Trailer especially, thank you for hopping on and talking more about this. I think this is a topic that is really new right now that not a lot of people know a ton about. So the more information we're able to put out there, the better.
Yeah, and it's not going anywhere. Medical
Yeah.
weight loss is here to stay. So hopefully people will get interested in diet and fitness too.
Yeah. We're hoping. But yeah, thank you all for joining us today.
Bye, y'all.